The following video was taken from a chapter of Jude Duperre's science fiction novel entitled The SnapDragon Code, now offered on Amazon. Please note that the script is the author's own creation and not a product of AI. Please watch and enjoy. As the four of them walk through the lobby at Dr. Silverman's office building, Mace puts his arm around Terry. He understood this final visit would be difficult for her. Freddie, seeing Dr. Silverman's son with Terry and the other men, returning once again to the building, says nothing to them except to nod as they continue towards the elevator. He could see that Terry was already on the verge of crying and did not want to intrude on her sadness.
Terry had her own key to the office. After unlocking the door, she hands it over to Mace, saying, "I guess I will not be needing this after today." She then follows the men into the bedroom's large walk-in closet, where the 5-foot-tall safe was kept. It was behind a sort of hand-painted room divider that Russell often used to hang some of his clothing on, as well as cloak the safe. Terry opens her purse and pulls out a card with the combination on it, and then proceeds to turn the dial this way and that, until it opened. "We'll see if Russell's phone is in here," she says under her breath. However, when the door of the safe swings open, the phone was nowhere inside on any of the shelves. At that point, Mace begins to question her about the clients that Russell had seen in the days before his murder. "Terry, the police have asked me whether I knew of anyone who might have wanted to harm my dad. I'm pretty certain there's no one in his personal life who would want him dead. However, do you know whether any of his patients were upset with him or had acted out with him while he was treating them?" Mace asks her, with an air of urgency that tells her this question is important. "No one ever showed any anger towards him that I witnessed except..." And then Terry pauses for a moment, deliberating whether she should add something to that last statement, but not certain she should. Mace decides to prod her a little about Russell's last client, the one he referred to as high profile. "Terry, my dad had called me about 2 weeks ago and said that he would be going over to the Rothmann Towers to meet with someone over there. He said that person did not want to be seen coming here to his office. Do you know who that might be by any chance?" Mace asks, while at the same time grabbing an empty box from the closet and setting it aside for her to pack her things in later. Looking almost guilty, Terry says, "I'm not supposed to discuss or give out the identity of Russell's patients. However, this guy was a bit hard to handle from the beginning. I'm not saying he murdered Russell or anything like that, but there was something definitely pushy about him." Then Terry goes to the safe for a minute and removes the file of the person in question. "Here's the date the file was opened, and here's the person's name. If anyone asks you how you got this information, you must tell them you picked it out of the file yourself. I don't want my name associated with divulging patient information. Understood?" she tells him with insistence. Mace looks at the name on the file and then shows it to Guy and Tom. "If anybody has secrets, this guy does. This guy, along with a few others, practically runs this world. What could this Stan Rothmann possibly have told my dad that got him killed?" "Wait a minute, Mace. We don't really know what went down here. Calling Rothmann a suspect this early in the game seems totally out of left field. Hell, we need a lot more to go on than just a hunch, which is all we have at the moment." "Terry, did Russell tell you why he was going to meet with Rothmann?" "Russell didn't say why, but for some reason, he seemed kind of upset that I even knew who he was going to meet up with. I explained that Rothmann's name showed up on my phone ID when he called in, and that appeased him. Now, the reason why Rothmann wanted to see Russell, I have no clue. Could I be in any danger? I've been thinking about that ever since this happened. There's a possibility that whoever did this doesn't want to take any chances with someone else finding out he went to see Russell for a consult. To tell you the truth, I've been kind of panicking about this. Right now, I'm starting to think that my only chance for some normalcy is moving away. If my husband and I decide to leave this city, I won't tell anyone, not even you, where I'm going. Do you understand?" "Of course we do. Now let's see if we can't help you get the rest of your office stuff packed up here. Remember, if there's anything in this office you would like to take with you, as a memento, please go right ahead." It was now approaching 5 p.m. Terry was safely back at home, and the men decide to go to a local pub nearby for dinner. On their way, they pass a florist shop, and Tom decides to stop in and ask them about the availability of a certain type of flower. By chance, would you have any snapdragon arrangements? He says to the lady preparing a bouquet. We don't normally carry that particular flower type this time of year, however. It's funny that you ask. About a week or so ago, we got a call from another florist in the area, inquiring about our stock in snapdragons. It must be Snapdragon month or something. Hey Meg, the lady clerk hollers over to the woman in the back room. What's the name of the florist shop that had checked in with us about whether we had any snapdragons in-house, do you remember? When Meg emerges, she says, yes, it was Marie's Perfect Bouquets on 49th Street. I don't know if they found a supplier, but you can check with them yourself and maybe they can get some for you as well. The helpful clerk says, as she goes back to her bow tying. Thank you so much. I'll do just that, Tom says, and then joins the others outside. Hey, this place says they got a request for snapdragons by another florist maybe a week or so ago. I guess most florists don't usually have that flower in stock. So, she gave me the name of the place that inquired, and I want to question them about it later. Can we swing over to 49th Street after our meal? The boys decide that's a good idea, and 2 hours later, they are in front of Marie's. Would you have any snapdragon bouquets in stock, sir? Tom asks the man wearing a pink shirt and red and white striped apron. The pink-shirted man, on the two-step ladder, quickly grabs a box of sphagnum moss from the upper shelf and then comes down. Without looking to see who was inquiring, he asks, Are you with the Towers? Tom, keeping a matter-of-fact attitude, says, No sir, I was just wondering if you had any in your shop at this time. Not a one, I'm sorry. We had a heck of a time filing our last order for the Towers though. I thought you were inquiring for them. Anyway, my name's Pierre. Can I help you with anything else? The florist says. Yes, kind of. Could you tell me what colors the snapdragons come in? Tom asks next. The Antirrhinum magus comes in a variety of colors, but my last order was for all yellow, and it took me a while to find some. Pierre says, shaking his head and looking perplexed over the situation. Tom needed to use this opportunity to question the man about the order and perhaps catch him off guard. Do you happen to know who it was that ordered the snapdragons at the Towers? Yes, it was Lucille, the lady over there who always places their orders, but she won't be able to get you any. We had to overnight them in from Mexico. Pierre explains, so you'll probably have to do the same. By any chance are you working with one of the labs in town? Pierre asks. Why do you ask that? Tom probes inquisitively. Well, because labs, working on DNA research, sometimes have a need for the dragon flower. I thought you might be with one of those companies, Pierre says. That's certainly not me, Tom says, and then thanks him for the information. When Tom comes out of the shop, he immediately recounts to Guy and Mace what he just heard. It's that son of a bitch, Rothmann. I know it. Someone over there ordered the flowers from this shop, and one of those flowers ended up in your dad's... Stops abruptly. It's just too much of a coincidence, but how to prove something like this? It won't be easy. I know. What we need is a lucky break, and more time to watch the lobby cameras. I'll see what I can do from back home, in my precinct. We've got a great investigative team, and we'll subpoena any evidence the NY Police Department has. Anyway guys, let's get back to the hotel and relax for the next few hours. We've done a lot today, and I want to thank you guys for being there with me. I could not have gotten through this without your help, that's for sure. The hotel, where Mace and his friends were staying at, had a nice little pub and restaurant area that offered the three of them a quiet place to have drinks and unwind. The piped-in music helped soothe their nerves, and the candle-lit tables gave off a calming ambience. Bowls of party mix gave them something to snack on, while an attentive waiter stopped by frequently with an assortment of cheeses and fruits to accompany their house wines. There's something I haven't yet mentioned to you, about this Stan Rothmann fellow. Believe it or not, my sister-in-law has had dealings with this man recently. Guy knows about it. What kind of dealings could your sister-in-law have possibly had with that creep? Well, recently she was his waitress at the President's Lodge Hotel, and apparently helped him out of some sort of health emergency when he was staying there. It's a long story, but he ended up giving her a $5,000 tip for her help in getting him back up on his feet after he passed out cold in front of his room. Anyways, now, she thinks he's a pretty nice guy, but that's not the end of the story. Recently, she met up with him again, and coincidentally, he's now stepped up to personally get my nephew into Webster Dalton Preparatory. You want to hear the real kicker? His foundation is paying for the whole damn thing. Well, I don't know what to say. The whole thing sounds almost unbelievable. Are you certain there wasn't some hanky-panky taking place here? I saw a picture of Evey, taken at your last barbecue, and she's quite attractive. No, I doubt it. Evey is kinda picky. One thing I should mention though is that Adam's IQ is at genius levels, so it could be that Rothmann was just trying to do a good deed. I just don't know. Rothmann's not dating her or anything, is he? Because if I were you, I'd explain to her that this guy could be very dangerous. I've tried that, but again, Evey thinks he's just wonderful, and would you believe it? There might be more. Okay, my nephew loves the water, right? So recently, he had been asking his grandmother for an above-ground pool. Now somehow magically, a very expensive swimming pool, fully installed, appears in her backyard, just days before the 4th of July. The story Evey gave me on that one doesn't add up one bit either. Man, I'd be a little worried over her if she were my family. We all are, but what can we do about it? The man hasn't broken any laws yet, that we know of anyways. Once again, guys, I'm not really certain Rothmann had anything to do with the pool. It looks suspicious, but I've got nothing solid to go on right now. Therefore, I will be watching things very closely. If he bothers Evey, I'll step in. I need to speak to that Sergeant Mulligan about my dad's having met with Stan Rothmann shortly before his murder, and about the florist delivery of snapdragons that went to the towers around that time. I'm hoping that he will then attempt to interview Rothmann. I understand that this Sergeant Mulligan can't ask him questions about what was said during his session with my dad. However, he can ask him where he was when my dad was murdered. Yes, I know. If Rothmann was involved, he would have had someone else commit the murder. Even so, questioning a guilty person can provide clues. Let's see what happens.